everything that I am attracted to, appeals to me about kind of Italian football culture is right there behind you.
And you don't know what I've got on the floor as well. Hi James, welcome to my Italian football shirt liar. How are you today?
Fantastic. Really looking forward to this. It's kind of good.
Chance to dust off my Euro 2000 jacket.
There's some class anthem jackets on there. I was looking again yesterday. I hadn't looked for a while, and there's some amazing ones.
The jackets, I mean, obviously you love the shirts, but the training gear is it's phenomenal as well, isn't it? I just remember this one, like watching Euro 2000 and the huddle together. Everyone's got hairband, you know. The Euro 2000 kit as well, that like really skin tight. Everyone looks so chiseled. You just want to. You just want to be Maldini and Cannavaro and Nesta more than anything else.
But also, like I can't remember who was wearing it the other day. It was like, but there was the Juventus Kappa anthem jacket from that time is amazing. I think it's like kind of black, maybe with grey lettering for Juve.
Yeah.
All Kappa down the sides. It's boss.
He's got to smoke a cigar like Lippi as well on the sideline wearing it.
Exactly.
That completes the look, I think. I mean, I think it's fair to say that you love Italian football, right? Just a little.
Oh, it's my number one passion. It literally drives my life. It's, sort of what gets me up in the morning, and it makes it very hard for me to sleep at night. So, I fill a lot of my spare time, even when I'm not working, sort of writing about or watching Italian football, rewatching some of the stuff from sort of 70s, 80s, and 90s. You can usually find it these days, and it's just magnificent. I don't think any other league in the world has looked as good as Serie A did throughout the kind of 80s and 90s. Just the kind of backdrop, stadia, the characters, but also the kits, and the kind of diversity of kits throughout that time. It must make it really difficult to be a kit designer these days, because to come up with anything new or innovative is quite difficult. Obviously, you see Juventus kind of really pushing boundaries there and trying to do different things with some of their original kind of touchstones. But the range of kits throughout this time, it's just brilliant.
And you personally, like your love affair with Italian football, where did it, what started it all for you?
So I didn't grow up in a particularly kind of football family. My friends at school, they all had teams, usually English teams. And, I would get up on a kind of Saturday morning, I'd watch Gazzetta Football Italia on Channel 4 with James Richardson. And then I would watch the Sunday game. And that really kind of became a big part of my life growing up, my kind of formative years. And I suppose all the big events there in football throughout the 1990s, there was always an Italian element to it. Be it, kind of the Italian 90, so they host it. They reached the semi-finals. 94, for me, seeing sort of Roberto Baggio kind of really drag Italy to the final and have the kind of for someone like Baggio to be associated, I suppose, with one of the highs and one of the lows of World Cup history. The high being the goal against Czechoslovakia in Italia 90, the low being missing that penalty in 94. And then almost every UEFA Cup final those days had an Italian team, or it was an all-Italian affair. Juventus very much through the kind of mid-90s when I was kind of growing up. They were in a Champions League final every year. Milan were in a Champions League final every year before then. You couldn't get away from it. And it was all the best players played there. And I don't know, I was all growing up just outside Hull. Hull City were in the third division then, almost going out of the Football League. For me, I was just so attracted to what was the best league in the world with the best players, always breaking world transfer records to sign the best. you couldn't take your eyes off it, and that's always kind of had a hold on me ever since.
It just felt so glamorous and exotic and aspirational compared to maybe what we were being served up at home, didn't it? And then, like you say, with Football Italia, just seeing James Richardson, an ice cream and an espresso in front of the Ponte Vecchio and a pink newspaper, it was all just like, you just wanted that, didn't you?
It was pure escapism. That I think it sold a lifestyle as much as it sold a league.
Yeah.
Because I think people wanted to go out and experience what James was experiencing. You only have to see it. I mean, whenever we publish a podcast or an article or something like that, usually someone, back in pre-lockdown days, would go and try and replicate what James would do, which was get a copy of Gazzetta dello Sport, order a cappuccino and a massive ice cream, and have their photo taken doing that. It really kind of seemed to connect with people in a way that I don't think any other league has really in the UK. I mean, late 90s through the 2000s, La Liga, we got access to that on Sky with Guillaume Balaguer kind of giving us a really good insight into what was going on there. But I don't think you ever really got sold the fan culture and just what it was like to live in Italy through anything other than Gazzetta Football Italia. I don't think there's ever really been a show about another league quite like that, which really captured imaginations up and down the UK.
So let's move on to your shirts. Your top 5 from the history of Calcio. Now, we had a bit of a chat yesterday and you gave me a top 5. I've gone away and I've got those shirts here and I'm going to show you them one at a time. We'll have a bit of a chat about each one. So I'll start with Torino, 1978-79. I mean, tell me about this shirt. Why have you gone for it?
So I visited your warehouse one day when we were up in Manchester to do a live event, and I didn't realise that there's a treasure trove away from what is already an Aladdin's cave of kind of football shirts, and this was one of them, along with a kind of like inter-club jacket, which I think was from the Roy Hodgson days. But this for me is just like vintage Italian football. I think that shirt is so special because even though it's from the kind of late 70s and Torino won their last league title in 1976, that is just a classic football shirt. I don't think it's just, I'm not going to say it's plain because plain makes it sound uninteresting, but there doesn't need to be anything else on that shirt. It's just the colour, the collar, and one of the great icons for a team, that kind of prancing bull, the taureau, which you see wherever you visit Turin. That's the symbol of the city. If you want to get some water in a town, in one of the city squares, one of the water taps has got the head of a bull on it. And I just think that is so evocative of what was a great Torino side with Graziani, Pulici.
Just like I said, Graziani, Claudio Sala. I mean, the 1978 Italy World Cup squad's got 6 Torino players in it. Only Juve have got more.
Yeah.
The shirt is made by Umbro as well.
Is it?
Which are made in England as well. Obviously with it, with Umbro, but that just adds another dimension to it again, I think, as well.
I think this is the great thing about shirts for all this era, is just how many different producers there were, some of which have faded away. I thought that would be made by someone like ER.
Or possibly not even have a manufacturer. The Italy shirts from the late 70s, often they don't even have a collar label. They're just kind of made by the local tailors even.
Yeah.
Umbro made the shirts between 74 and 79. There's photos of the maybe the 76 winning team, and they've got the Umbro diamond on there as well.
Right.
This particular shirt was worn in the UEFA Cup first round against Sporting Gijón. They lost 3-0 in Spain. This is from the second leg, 1-0, obviously not enough. This there is a bit of a tragedy to this shirt as well,
right?
In that it did have a number 10 on the back.
Yeah.
I think it was Iraldo Petty's shirt from the game, but someone's mullered it and unpicked it all, and
no,
which is quite devastating, I have to say.
Yeah.
Fiorentina, 1983-85. I mean, this is beautiful. Tell me why you love this shirt. I mean, I don't even have to ask, really.
I know. I think a lot of people associate Fiorentina with the shirts you saw in the 90s. You know, the Fila Nintendo collaborations, or the Salentana ice cream ones. But for me, the shirts in the 80s. This one is the JD Farrow one as well. And here we go, brilliant.
There you go, prepared.
Magnificent. I love the way they pick out the red, which is another of the colours of Florence, as well as the purple, which is from the Giglio or the Giagiolo, which is the lily or the iris, which you find in the kind of valleys around the Arno River in Florence. But I love the way they pick that out with the badge is front and centre. It's a big crest as well. And that crest is kind of an adaptation of the lily for Florence, their symbol, with the F of Fiorentina and Florence. And it's just, it's great. And there's so many great players who wore that shirt, be it Socrates, be it Gabriele Oriali, Giancarlo Antonioni, the number 10, who was
the man money.
Still, I think, one of the most popular Fiorentina players. And the numbering as well, that used to be in this era, iconic numbering. I mean, it's amazing. I think they need to bring this back, because it's just the variations that they have of that. It feels like every player had a target on their backs. I think there are some regulations which stop clubs now putting that kind of circle around it, particularly if they have to play in UEFA competitions. But for me, that was unique numbering. And one of the big regrets I look at when you look at the Premier League now is just how all numbering is standardised, it's uniform. Yeah. Numbering like this, for me, is something that makes certain kits really stand out, brings them to life.
Yeah, it made the shirts more individual to each team, didn't it? But, you know, I spoke to a lot of Fiorentina fans about these shirts, and it's... this badge at the time was really, really controversial. The president, Flavio Pontello, he really wanted to put Fiorentina on the map as a brand. And this is kind of like the J of Juve recently. You know, it was really divided opinion. Like, you can't mess with the badge in that way. And yeah, like, obviously now time's a great healer, and like these shirts just look phenomenal. But back then, this would have been like really controversial. And yeah, the first thing the new president did in 1991 was to get rid of this badge and return back to the old one. One of the most iconic sponsors of this era, Parma. Parma, 1990-91. Tell me about this shirt.
It's quite simple, really. I think anyone who watched Serie A through the 90s, as we all did in the UK, we have such fond memories of Parma. I think they're still one of the most kind of followed teams here in England. And yeah, people forget that shirt there is the first shirt Parma ever wore in Serie A. They'd never been in Serie A before 1990, 1991. They were a revelation, and they finished fifth and got into the UEFA Cup. I think we associate Parma with being in those finals that I was speaking about earlier, about always being in a UEFA Cup or a Cup Winners' Cup final. That team that came up was still kind of dominated by Italian players, you know, Lorenzo Minotti, Alessandro Melli, and players like that. They had Thomas Brolin in there, who was their kind of exotic star before all the others would follow.
Well, I think the first season in Serie A, they signed 3 stars of Italia 90, Taffarel, Grun, Georges Grun, and Thomas Brolin. So that kicked it.
Yeah, the goalkeeper shirt from that team is, it gives you a headache. to look at. I mean, I imagine if I was a striker bearing down on Taffarel's goal, I would just instantly I'd be drawn to it and shoot straight at him because it's a real kind of colour blocking nightmare.
Yeah.
But I love that, and I love the one from the mid-90s, 95, 96, by which time they've got Espria, they've got Zola, they signed Cannavaro, then Thuram, and it becomes a little bit like the Lazio team of the late 90s, early 2000s, one of the best assemblies of talent I think we've ever seen in any league ever. It's just extraordinary. So, I think that is a kind of, one of those shirts that just brings back, makes people smile. I think the Parma shirt really makes people
smile. Parma is, I think, in terms of people being nostalgic about Italian football, Parma is top of the list for putting people right back there. But Parma, I mean, I think it's an interesting one because they often wear white shirts, but then because of the success, of that team, the Cannavaro, Thuram, Crespo, and like they had those few years where yellow and blue stripes were the home choice. I don't know. I'm a bit torn between what I want, what I expect from a Parma shirt. Like, should it be white? Should it be yellow and blue? Roma, 91-92 home shirt. Now, you said Roma 91-92. I didn't necessarily know exactly which one you meant, so I've got all three from that season just in case. I mean, personally, I love Adidas shirts from the past, and like the Roma colours, like you're saying, it's got the Lupetto on the sleeve, a Barilla sponsor. I mean, this is just beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. In terms of seeing Adidas shirts from that era, I just think the three stripes, but also, Roma are known as the Giallorossi, and more often than not, they're not wearing red and yellow. They're in a kind of red and orange, whereas this is proper red and yellow. I mean, the yellow really kind of pops off the collar. And also what I love about sponsors throughout this period is often the sponsors would always pick out one of the color elements of the shirt. So you've got Barilla there, which is yellow, like the collar, and this is the shirt that they wore as kids. I mean, when this is the shirt that when they were ball boys at the Flaminio or the Olimpico, they would be watching players wearing that shirt. Rudi Voller, Giuseppe Giannini, Bertol, Hassler, players like that, who had been part of the West Germany side that won the World Cup. For me, that is one of the all-time great Roma shirts. And to be honest, they've really hit form recently. Some of the jerseys they've been coming out with, and going back to wearing sort of yellow rather than orange. Cup. That was when they won the cup in beating. It must have been Mancini's Samp with a couple of goals from the flying German Rudi Voller before he went to Marseille. Amazing.
What you were saying about the sponsors, I mean, they always seem just so exotic as well. I mean, but then I remember the first time I went to Italy, I probably spent the first days just going, that's Barilla's just pasta, and Upim is a supermarket chain. Chirita is a toy shop, and it's there's so much romance in these particular names that appeared on these beauty shirts. Just got a story for you of Roma 91-92. This particular shirt. Now, obviously they had the Giallorossi, the home shirt, white away shirt. Now they played Monaco in the Cup Winners' Cup, and the match in the Principality. Both of these shirts obviously clash with Monaco's kit. So they wore this navy blue shirt for that game, but lost it. So the club said, no, we're never wearing this shirt ever again for superstition. And that was it. This one just went in the bin.
I love those colours. I love that design. When they brought it back this year for the third jersey, I was like, I need to have one of those. They're amazing because it's just a great colour combination. I mean, Roma have had some weird ones over the years. They had, I think, when Diodora was their sponsor, they had like a green one, which was, I think, a touch back to one of the clubs that fused to form Roma back in 1927. But there's also another white one, which seems to have that kind of zig, kind of West Germany kind of.
That was an airy one from the year before, from 1991. Similar to this, like the Napoli one here, but Roma had a variation of it as well. I think Atalanta did as well. Everyone just wanted to rip off the West Germany shirt because it was so good. Sampdoria, 91-92. Again, an absolute belter.
Yeah, I mean, Samp. Should I say this? I mean, I think Samp have got the best designed shirt, the best kind of color kind of thing, the stripe across the chest rather than down. It just makes it, I think, the most beautiful shirt in Planet Football. I remember
I made some notes prior to speaking, and my notes say exactly the same thing. Sampdoria, the best color combination, the best design, and the sailor badge as well. Yeah. It's a dream combination.
Yeah, I mean they're the only club I think in the world that, you know, on their badge they've got someone smoking. Which is pretty cool. And also we saw this on the other Roma kit that I chose. Early 90s, they put the badge on the sleeve, so it makes for a really uncluttered shirt. And I think their white shirts, their away shirts in particular, are beautiful throughout the 80s. There's one that I mentioned to you yesterday, which Graham Souness and Trevor Francis wore, which has the kind of stripes just down there, just down that side, which is a really iconic shirt as well. But this for me is Roberto Mancini scoring a right-footed volley on the left-hand side of the penalty area against Napoli at the Stadio San Paolo, and it hits both posts. It's one of the great Mancini goals, kind of socks down, shirt out, long sleeves, everything that you want. I remember I bought I think it was a 1991 Asics Samp home shirt from you guys. And I did a TV show on BT with David Ginola. David Ginola he was saying that is my favorite shirt of all time. I love a Samp shirt. Where can I get one? I would pay hundreds and hundreds of, maybe even thousands of pounds for it, and I just kept quiet. I was just like, I'm not even going to say that I've got one of these. I don't want to say it's mine. It's beautiful.
You were saying about it being uncluttered. Now this should have the Scudetto shield on the chest, but the replica at the time, it came as part of the tag. Then you had to stitch it on yourself. So someone's been lazy and not bothered to stitch on the first and only Scudetto that you'd ever have on a Samp shirt. So, now the away shirt as well was worn in the '92 European Cup final. But if you look at the pictures of that game, there's no ERG sponsor on there because the UEFA regulations at the time, you couldn't have it. But like you say, this is peak Samp, really. You know,
there isn't another shirt like it. I think they were a little bit upset this season because another team, I think a French team, had a shirt which was maybe a second or third shirt, which took a lot of the Samp design from it, and it's like no one can wear these colors or this design other than us. Magnificent piece of design style. Never go out of fashion. Don't do anything with it. Joma, whoever is designing kits, just leave it as it is. It's brilliant.
Thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate it. Brilliant hearing from you. Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Cheers.